Welcome back. My name's Elena, and today we have a special guest on the channel. Her name is Luna. Luna is one of our senior hens, and she's actually about 5 years old. So Luna has some struggles, and we're going to talk through that. But overall, she is our friendliest chicken. She's the only one that will let us hold her. We adopted Luna and another chicken from our neighbor last winter because they had a predator attack on their coop, and they really didn't have the time to fix it, so they asked if we would take the 2 chickens. And of course, we love our girls and we didn't mind having a couple extra, and so we went ahead and took them in. Now, both of the chickens are older, and we believe the other chicken to be closer to 8 years in age, and neither of these chickens lay very much at all. Chickens' egg production drastically decreases after the first couple of years. Our original flock has been around for almost 2 years, and so we'll probably get another solid year of production out of them before they start to rapidly decrease. We do know that these 2 older hens do lay eggs. We've seen them lay them every so often, but they aren't nearly as frequent as our existing flock. The amount of eggs that your chicken produces depends on the breed, so this is definitely something you want to consider when you're looking into what breeds you want to select. Now, chickens typically will lay all throughout the summer, but whenever fall and winter come around, the chickens will start to reduce the amount of eggs they're laying, and most of the time they'll stop laying eggs for a period of time. You might get one here or there throughout the winter months, but they aren't going to be nearly as consistent as they are in the summertime. This has to do with the hours of daylight in the winter time. There are ways that you can increase the amount of eggs that chickens produce over the winter, but that's not something that we believe in because we want to give the chickens a break, and it's part of their natural cycle to reduce the number of eggs in the colder months. As far as chicken lifespans go, this varies depending on the breed of chicken. We have all laying hens, and laying hens can live up to 10 to 12 years depending on their living situation. So some factors that might affect how long they live are their exposure to disease, their exposure to different pests, also what type of coop they live in, and their exposure to different predators. So for us, our coop is completely locked up at night. It is enclosed, it has an automatic door, and there's no chance that a predator is going to get in there. But we do let our chickens free range during the day, so that can expose them to diseases carried by other birds, pests such as lice and mites, and it can also expose them to hawks and fox and other things that are just roaming around while they're free ranging. As I mentioned earlier, chickens are going to reduce the amount of eggs they're laying after the first 2 to 3 years. This is definitely something you have to consider initially whenever you choose to become a chicken owner. You need to decide what you're going to do with those chickens once they start reducing their egg laying. For us personally, with this round of chickens, we are choosing to keep them as pets. There are a lot of homesteaders out there that then choose to process their chickens after a certain age. This is all up to you, and this is something that you need to consider starting out. Regardless of what decision you make on whether you want to keep them as pets or if you want to process your chickens, I highly recommend taking a chicken processing class from a local farm. This is something that we personally did before we even got chickens at all. This helped us tremendously whenever we were raising chicks because we ended up with 3 roosters and we decided to process them. Having that skill set prior to even raising chickens really made us feel more comfortable with making that decision, and it made the process go a lot smoother. We did have to watch a couple of YouTube videos to kind of refresh our memory on certain things, but it did help overall. Now, as for our girl Luna here, she has had respiratory issues since we got her. When we initially received her from our neighbor, we took her to the vet twice and gave her a total of 14 days of antibiotics, and nothing helped her. Now, over time, she has definitely had some other issues, and the most recent being that she can't see very well. And because of that, we've had to make some adjustments to our coop and our run to help our baby girl out. And if this is your first time raising chickens, one thing you'll need to know is that any chicken that is showing symptoms of being sick or maybe a little bit just behind the other chickens will have a tendency to get picked on. As much as we love our Luna girl and try to take care of her, some of the other hens in the flock have a tendency to pick on her. We do our best to make sure that every day she has her own food to eat. This requires that we feed her separately, so we will actually put her in the run with a big bowl of food and let her eat by herself. This just allows her to get enough food and not be so paranoid whenever all the other chickens are around. This is just one thing that we do for her. Run modifications, one thing we did is we used to have a ramp that went up to this perch right here. We had to remove that temporarily. We still haven't put it back yet. You can see it laying here along the ground. We took that away because at night Luna would walk up there and she would just perch up here rather than going into the coop. And we think that part of that issue was because the roosts were too high for her to reach and she couldn't see them in this dark coop. This required us to make some modifications to our coop. You can see that we have 3 roosts here. Originally we only had 2 roosts, but with the 2 older chickens we had to add this lower roost, and then once Luna was having trouble seeing, we added this little stair step for her. She definitely gets up there, and this is exactly where she sleeps every single night. It's a much better setup for her since she does have trouble seeing, and it works out well. That's one thing. If you have older hens, you're going to have to make some adjustments to your coop just to make sure that they're comfortable and can have a good night's rest. Make sure your chickens have access to a dust bath. This is how they keep themselves clean and keep the pests away. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned a thing or two about chickens that you didn't already know. Our Luna girl hasn't been doing as well as she used to be, so definitely keep her in your thoughts. If you have a senior chicken, I would love to hear about the things that you've changed in your coop or in your schedule in order to help those chickens out. And I'd also just be interested to know, how old are your chickens? So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.